That. We're good.
Hey, all right. When you open it down,
What's that?
when are you opening down?
Leave it. It's the question of the day.
Hopefully we'll be out of this time by then.
That would be good. I don't feel like shoveling it.
Tell you, this time of year, it doesn't get shoveled. It'll go away in a day or so.
Those are people gotta walk. Or it's if you
It will go away.
Leaf's willing to take care of it.
might be right. The hose out,
So,
wash it away.
or just so you guys are aware, if you send me something by email, we talked about going to the village email, well, my computer system went. So I'll send it to my personal mail for now until, and I'm hoping by the 26th or 27th, you got a guy coming in and reset the whole,
I've
do a
been
whole new
wearing in
computer.
the village one up. It's hard to
Friday
get
has
used
some
to.
problems when I saw one.
It's going up.
It's
It's not the website, it's me.
Yeah, and I was actually Andy is a rubber truck. That's exciting.
You came in here with your computer, you guys can help you figure it out.
Yeah, they did, but I came in with my thing, I haven't yet tackled the computer part of it. Tracy, do you have copies of all of these for the records? Because I want to make sure you did, mine are written in, but you are welcome to them.
No, I don't know. You don't.
How we give you another.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just looking for the front page of this.
Give me copies of it.
How many copies did they give me?
And the committee took it, it's
Yeah,
fine.
definitely.
But and I put the questions that were asked by Whitman inside, and Sharon responded to show that they did that.
Okay.
All right, let me call the public hearing on the 2023-24 budget to order. In terms of general fund, the proposed budget has $1,323,622. That's up from last year, about $75,000. Part of that is expected salary increases. We're still talking to the union. We added more money in buildings because we need to spend more money on several of our buildings. We have an ambulance payment that's budgeted there. Some non-chips paving of parking areas that needs to get done. Obviously, $75,000 doesn't cover all that, but those are the things that went up most of it. The water budget is $469,156. That's up about $65,000, and that money is being spent on meter replacement and hopefully automated meter reading for a portion of the building. This will be a 3 or 4 year project, depending on how much money we allocate in the future years. And Nate and I have some meetings with some vendors next month to understand all the different capabilities. Store fund is $572,070. This is up $100,000 from last year. The bulk of that is buying a sewer cleaner. We opted not to borrow money to buy the sewer cleaner. We opted to take money out of the sewer reserve fund and pay for it. So we didn't have to pay finance charges. In terms of the revenue sources for the general fund, we get $647,000 from state aid, sales tax, gross receipts tax, franchise fees and things like that. That leaves a balance of $677,000. The tax levy that we built into the budget was $600,000, so we're using $77,000 out of that fund reserve. The tax rate for next year will actually go down 2 cents and be $4.89 per thousand. So that's a summary of. Are there any questions from the public? Comments? Anybody on Zoom? All right, hearing no questions, we will close the public hearing on the budget. Thank you. Now we sit and wait till 6:30.
Any questions?
Well, this is how it usually works.
It's a good thing, right?
Matt brought the surveyor's map for Silver Road. So
Awesome.
That's the updated preliminary map, so it has the road width or the easement width and what the fire code said I need to do, which is the
21 or 20.
20 feet. And then there, it also has the turnaround designated at the end. So you'll be able
So
to.
it's the whole thing in there.
Yeah, so if you guys approve that, and want to continue forward with that, then the next step would be that I would do the petition, the next map to it, and the property owners would all have to sign it. He's gonna give me a deed description or a legal description based upon that, but I wanted to make sure that it was approved first.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else?
And I have a digital version too, but I figured that was probably easier to see.
Yeah, it is, because we're looking on our phone and you're like,
Yeah.
you can see like this corner. Between me and involved.
For those who do.
no. That's often what happens.
That's just to keep people out of people's driveways, should they venture up that way.
That's, I guess because of the length of the road, there has to be a specific designated turnaround for the fire trucks.
Oh, okay.
So this guy's going, tell the tour, the boss, he agreed to let them use the driveway.
Okay, he's already agreed. Okay. I'll stay.
My,
Sal and Jennifer.
that's my
Okay.
understanding. Because I guess the driveway's gonna get, basically gonna get plowed, where I think it already is, but. Since it's a designated turn.
Who's gonna walk around and get the signatures on
You gotta get the document first.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
So is that next?
He's got to actually write the document now that you have all the data, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they have that updated. Survey, right?
Yeah, and if you guys approve it, then he's gotta give me a description that describes this, so I can put it on the document as well, but I'll put a copy of the map so they can see what they're actually looking at.
And by he, you mean,
The surveyor.
correct.
Welcome back. Hi, Mary. Oh, this is great.
I don't know. I have to- Yeah, I think.
That's when you should be here, propose, right away. We can see if we can tap it.
I think so. Here.
Oh.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah, please do.
How are you?
I want to see you. For you. I'm gonna propose.
Actually, somebody came in and showed me one for that area.
As we go along, it's time to steer the stretches.
Show you all the differences in companies. What that one is, right? You know?
Even though it was only about 7 minutes. Just sitting there, wait.
Yeah.
I don't like to.
You don't like to wait.
Good.
That's right. It's taught.
Yeah.
That's why we really allocate our own time.
I know, they didn't come.
Say, too late.
I didn't exist in a small bag.
You'll have to wait 5 minutes.
So I'll be sure to you.
I can tell. It's probably a safety.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Give you all 5 minutes to get home.
Not really. It's a little bit of a delay here.
Imagine that would be, fanfare.
First of all, take me 5 minutes to get set up. So I'll stay, thanks. Although the wife is home.
See your mile. Just next to you.
There you go, Dark.
Oh, there.
Let's do it. I believe it'll be 6 minutes.
Crazy.
So if somebody hired a Well, because it's being approved tonight. So that would have been.
6:30.
You should let me know then.
Start with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, both in the building and on Zoom. First order of business is approving the minutes from the March 16th, 2023 meeting. Any changes or additions?
They were well done.
Yeah.
Good job.
Any
There's a lot of stuff. So,
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Thank you. In terms of my report, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Josh Jerome on being firefighter of the year. Fire department, I'd also like to congratulate Mark LaPuglia, I think is how you say his name, who was the Oscar winner. The fire department put on a great banquet, awards banquet on last Saturday night. In terms of the White Birch Ready project, everything on the upper level is taken care of. They were barging more rock over this morning. He has indicated that it'll be completely done by the end of next week. So hopefully that happens that way and we can start moving this project in total. In terms of water levels, we're up a lot since the last board meeting. We're really 246.56 today, up over 11 inches in the last month. We are about where we were at this time last year. The Ottawa River freshet, which is what often causes us to rise quickly, began last week. And the F limit, which is what the IJC uses to keep water in Lake Ontario to reduce the water going down the St. Lawrence from the lake to let the Ottawa River drain and not flood Montreal, is in place and is being used, and therefore the outflow is about 2,000 cubic meters per second slower than what's coming in. And that'll probably remain the case for a few more weeks. We are at the level and the date. Our emergency plan has water levels and dates and 4 different articles relating to floods. First one calls for us to make sure there's going to be sandbags, make sure there's going to be pumps, and make sure there's going to be people. We are at that stage. We have contacted emergency management. It appears, though not confirmed yet, that the stored sandbags throughout the state are junk. So that if in fact we need sandbags, which I do not expect, they'll have to be made. And fortunately, Wayne County jail population is up, so that is a source of labor. It was not a source of labor in 2019, so we'll see what transpired. But I don't want people to panic. But yes, we have higher water. We're going to have higher water. We used to consider 247.3 our flood stage. At this point in time, there are some yards down in the loop that get pretty saturated, but there's not water in the road or anywhere else. We don't close our floodgates until 247.5. And that's when we close the gates and turn the pumps on. And Wayne County Emergency Management considers 248 our new flood stage. And I think that's pretty accurate to me. So we are paying attention. Consensus from various experts all claim to know what's going on, including the IJC and the Army Corps of Engineers. all seem to suggest that we're gonna get to somewhere close to 247.5, but not probably above that. And if you look at last year, that kind of makes sense. We should have water longer this year because part of the plan has a 12-month look back to set the outflow, and we didn't have the inflow last year that we did prior. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully it's gonna be a good summer. The Verizon tower still doesn't work. There's no power to it. A few weeks ago, I asked for another update and they told me late May, so we'll see. Sea Grant, last meeting, we talked about a grant we had applied for to do both a socioeconomic and an ecological assessment of 3 potential public pier sites. We were fortunate enough to be awarded that grant. We have not heard from Cornell University yet, who is the grant administrator, and that begins the process. My guess, I don't know this for sure, but my guess is we won't hear from them until we have a state budget.
Dave, I've heard that we had some years ago, a proposal from the SBJSA for a public dock. Do you have a copy of the presentation that they provided for that?
I have no idea. I know that one was proposed at that site before SBJSA bought it.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the old marina that was in there, the
Yeah.
little one.
yeah, this was a couple years ago.
Well, I've been talking to the SBJSA for years about one there and met with their board last summer,
Oh, okay,
where they basically said, we don't want it
okay,
because they're worried about kids and safety of kids.
okay.
Their board has changed and I'm now hearing they might want it.
Okay,
This study calls for the yacht club to be investigated. The difference between the yacht club and SBJSA isn't very much. So I'm not worrying about it. I mean, we're a long way away from saying, we're gonna
Yeah.
have one and this is where it's gonna be.
right, but.
But there'll be, I know there's growing interest there again.
I'm glad to hear there's interest because that would be a great location for it as far as the village is concerned, in my opinion. And then if you were able to do something on 14, having 2 spots, there's nothing like it. But I didn't realize the difference between the SBJSA and the yacht club until this all came out.
Yeah, and honestly, I have some concerns about putting it in either of those places.
Okay,
Because those boards change often. The attitudes of the board, in my experience, seem to change. We have to have a really good, firm agreement
yes,
that we all signed off on to put it there.
okay,
But they're great sites, so we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. Mark Jones Senior Park, our old brush dump, for people that don't know where that is. The grass has come in really nice. It's actually been mowed twice now. The stilling well from the water plant that's still there is a hazard. We happen to have a bunch of chain link fence in storage, but we don't have any posts. So Brad is working with various fencing vendors to get some quotes to get that fenced off. The fire department auxiliary is working on fences and picnic tables, excuse me, and things like that. So more to come on that, but that's moving forward. The ambulance financing through New York State, which got us a huge break on the interest rate. Karen helped us complete all that paperwork, which was incredibly complex. I bet it took 6 weeks to get all the i's dotted and t's crossed. So it's all in. And now we just have to patiently wait and gently push to get the money. Streetlights, we still have a bunch of them that need to be moved, a bunch of them that have never worked since the transition. Supposedly, the vendor has all the parts now. They did have a lot of trouble getting parts, but they say they have them all. They'll be here next week to make those repairs and move all the lights. Like to remind everybody that there's a beach cleanup on Saturday from 10 to 12. We meet at the county park. It's sponsored by the Neighborhood Association, Sodas Rotary, and Wayne County Soil and Water. In terms of water, he did the New York State report. Took the monthly samples to be tested, which happens in Ontario, which is why that's in his report. Talks about the new meter project. Starting meter readings for the quarter. He's been working with some contractors over at the trailer park on Margaret Road to install a hot box for a new meter over there, since that meter's under concrete and has been for quite a while. And he's doing stakeouts, which are starting to pick up. And he's picked up the wastewater quote and said, as always, keeping our water clean and safe to drink. Make sure you always check toilets and sinks for running water when not used. Could save you from running up your water usage. Bill?
Yeah, the only thing I've got right now is, of course, insurance is part of it, but I know Tracy's got that handled and it's in this next budget to cover the village. However, we did finally get a parking enforcement officer job description, basically, to take care of our issues down on Main Street and that kind of thing. If anybody's interested, I'm not gonna read it to you. I can get you a copy of it. I'm sure it'll probably be posted someplace with the village, but that's something that's gonna be worked on soon to try and get an ad out there and see if we can find anybody that's interested in what direction we're gonna go. We did have a couple of retired sheriffs that were interested, but that was back a short while ago. So that's all I've got, Dave.
Jennifer?
The only thing I had was the digital meeting policy, which I sent out to everybody. That is just my original write-up and Matt's changes incorporated. I didn't know if anybody had any additional changes or comments.
The only change that I would put is the 72 hours for the 24, because that reflects our policy.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to look at that, so I'll get the comments.
Maybe we can put it on the agenda for this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Bud? See, right when you report.
Okay, for the highway department, they wrapped up the winter plowing season, obviously. They had 90 plow runs for the year, with just under 1,730 miles plowed for the winter. Right now, they're currently breaking down all the trucks for the summer and getting the equipment cleaned up in the storage. There's 2 brush collections per month right now in April, and the next one's set for May 1st. So they ask that you put that stuff out nicely and get it to the edge of the road as much as possible, so they don't have to go onto your lawns at all. Do not place brush in advance of 48 hours, they're asking. They'll put it out there and let it blow around for a week. And plow damage has been cleaned up for the season, some sweeping still to remain. And quoting on fence on Featherly Drive for the new green space is currently in progress. Get that up and running. I also talked to Brad because I had a couple people ask about garbage cans within the village.
I did too.
And I spoke to Brad about that. He said they go out the first week of May, as they always have, and that will continue to be the policy for that department. That's all I've got for the highway. For the ambulance, 27 total billable responses for March. Total responses, 18 billable, 14 ALS assisted, 9 responses canceled or sign-offs, 19 mutual aids for Stack 2 for Williamson. Bill brought up an interesting fact that the total responses for 2023 so far are 111 compared to this time last year, which was 68. So they've certainly increased. There's potential for us to pick up even a little more ground here until the county gets up and running. There's some talk of seeing how that goes. We're not exactly sure how that's defined yet. But that's almost, it's just under 2/3 more of what we had this time last year, which I think bodes well and speaks to the dedication of the ambulance crew, and it also justifies our commitment to buying a new ambulance. So kudos to you guys on that. That's all I got.
Thank you, Joy.
Well, I can start out with the garbage cans too, because I also spoke to Brad about it. And he told me May 1st, he said it takes them a while to get them all out, scrubbed down, and ready to go. And I believe that we had a couple of them added into the budget for this year. So there will be some additional ones, probably around the pavilions and that sort of thing.
There's money in the pavilion budget. Or somewhere.
Yeah, awesome. So that's good news. The CET, the EV charging ports were approved and we received it. Well, we haven't received it yet, probably won't until after the budget or next year or whenever they get around to it, but $62,440 for the installation of 16 level 2 EV charging ports for the community. And this will be scattered around various areas in the village. And we have looked at those and met with stakeholders in that regard. So
So are we gonna turn the software on to charge for those meters this time
I could
around?
imagine we would
There's
start,
gonna have to be lots of decisions made.
yeah,
Okay, because I know I've had 2 people reach out to me to find out if you're gonna charge for the electricity.
I would say yes. I can't imagine that. Why should, that's the only way we can recoup anything for our roads or our electricity or anything.
Well, with the quantity that we're putting in, it's a little different than just the one down there.
Yeah, we have a ton of things, location,
Yeah,
because we're giving up parking spaces when we.
That was the concern, I think that was raised. Yeah.
And we do it, so that's an issue. I have a huge concern about where we get them from, based on our experience down there. We need to make sure it's from a local company that services them and
I agree.
all of that, so.
Yeah, and the vendor that has helped us is probably the vendor we should be looking at. I mean, I know we have to have quotes, but we'll see what happens with that.
Just wanted to
but-
ask some of the others.
There's a ton of, this will not happen fast.
No.
There's also questions about why level 2, because
Yes.
now there's lots of level 3 chargers out there, which I don't have an electric car that uses these, but from what I hear, it's hours to minutes. So,
And when I asked about that not too long ago, they said it's like 5 years, they figured the expectancy before they'll be retrofitting them for fast chargers. So then what happens to all of that? I mean, there are a lot of questions, but there are a lot of electric vehicles being purchased.
Hmm.
So, that's basically,
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you.
no, that's fine. And then another exciting portion of the meeting tonight will be dedicated to, our committee met with 3 landscape, met and reviewed the 3 landscape architectural proposals that we received on Willow Park. And they were, Whitman, Barton, LaJudas, and LaBella. And LaBella, or Barton and LaJudas is the one that we're recommending. Their proposal was phenomenal and compared to the other 2 and really stood out. LaBella was a close contender, but Barton had gone the extra mile. And so the committee ranked them by criteria, and it came out with BNL and with LaBella coming in second and Whitman coming in last. Whitman's was more of a boilerplate. LaBella had spent some time on theirs, but it didn't appear that they had really a lot of information about the site when they referred to it. One of the best questions the committee asked, and I loved it, was, when you went down and looked at this site, what did it look like to you as a playground? How did you feel? And one of the companies replied, well, we noticed you've got a parking spot problem. Nothing about the rest. And the other one said, oh, we saw so much opportunity and we recognize the fact that you weren't using all your space. And we have so many things we can do. And if anybody from the committee wants to chime in, I'm very happy to have them do it. I'd like to say thank you to Sharon and all the members that were here, took time off of work to come and interview. And it was 3-4 hours in the afternoon. And so we are putting forth tonight, and we will have that resolution, Barton and the Judas. And if it's approved, our first meeting. Can we? Sure.
I gave all the information, we might as well.
Our first meeting will be May 2nd if this is approved. And you can ask me any questions you want.
Summary and this is farther down.
There's a resolution.
I have the resolution here.
I think we probably have a copy too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Down a little further, because we were gonna do it a little later.
Right there.
You can do it, but
Well, I shuffled these already.
I got a few extras.
We got it.
I got it.
So do you want me to read this? Or did Bud want to?
No, you go right ahead.
This is a resolution to authorize consultant services for the Willow Park Design and Implementation Project. Whereas in accordance with applicable procurement requirements, the Village of Sodas Point prepared a request for qualifications, RFQ, for consultative services to provide a conceptual design plan for the Willow Park project and advertise RFQ on January 27th, 2023. And whereas the village received 3 proposals before the March 1st, 2023 submission deadline from the following firms: Barton and LaJudas, Labella Associates, with planning, design, landscape architecture. Whereas the Willow Park Advisory Committee, the committee, thoroughly reviewed all submissions, rating and ranking each proposal in accordance with criteria that included quality and completeness of response, understanding of and approach to the scope of work, experience with assignments of similar size and scope, proposed project schedule, and experience of the project team. And whereas the committee selected B&L and Labella Associates as the top 2 proposals and interviewed each firm on April 10th, 2023. And whereas subsequent to the interviews, the committee agreed that B&L presented the most compelling case by focusing on the services they would provide to Sodas Point for this project, while also demonstrating professional competence, relevant experience, and instinctive creativity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that after a comprehensive review process, the committee recommends that the village board retain Barton and LaJudas DTC to perform conceptual design services for the Willow Park project.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Anybody
No,
opposed?
no, I'm sorry.
Yahoo! This would be a 2 to 5 year program.
You want to continue with your report?
Oh, sure. So May 2nd, there will be a meeting and we're going to meet down at the village at Willow Park with the architects. I had them put that on the calendar and if it was approved, we would do it. So we're on. And anybody wishing to come is welcome to come. The planning board, I attended 2 meetings by Zoom, and chapter 141, Jennifer and I offered to help. Why we did that, I have no idea, because it was a lot of work. But we did some suggested changes. We took planning board changes that was applied by people and also board members, and put it together and sent it off to the planning board. We did do this within the 5-day window that Kathy had found was the law, which I was amazed we got that done. It was also sent to the board members for review. Following our review, Bob Vinnie had sent a sincere discussion about the planning board 141 as it was presented. His thoughts were on target and he offered to review anything that was written. It's not often that a community member steps forward with assistance. Following his review of the document Jennifer and I worked on, I took a liberty and sent that to Bob. His information in regard to our document was spot on. So I sent it to Bruce to accompany the document that Jennifer and I sent. Now, that information will just be, information, and the planning board does what they want with it, I believe. Is that how that goes? But we made the commitment, and, when can we expect to hear something on that?
I suspect it will be a while because this is their busy season. They seem to have lots of hearings. So
Okay,
it'll probably be fall before they get
okay,
a chance, or late summer,
okay,
to spend any time.
yeah.
Is there any possibility, given the summer months and the complexity with the garbage, that we could handle it separately and not necessarily have to have it all in one big giant thing that has to go back to the planning board? Would you really?
That can get brought up to the planning board, but I don't know whether they're inclined to do that or not. And we have one real garbage issue that at least I'm aware of.
I can think of a couple more.
Mhm.
Well, there's one person that calls often, that's it. So,
Right, I mean, you go by garbage, we mean the garbage, the entirety of the scope of the code of the garbage, which
That has to go through
Well,
the
the-
planning
the-
board.
yards,
well, yes,
which is definitely more than one of.
right, but most of those are being addressed as we speak.
I'm just curious if there's a willingness or.
We'll have to ask Bruce.
So who, do you want me to ask Bruce?
I'll ask Bruce. Is
Okay, all righty, thank you.
that it?
Oh, and the traffic calming letter, I sent the response to it to the person that sent me the letter and found out it was the wrong person. And so we resent it again. Dave caught it, and I did that from Cape Evans. So it's gone and it's done. We haven't heard anything more. Have we heard anything more from the sheriff or the county planning at all as to whether they're looking at, they're supposed to be looking at crosswalks and things down 14 and possible.
I don't know that common planning is doing that. That's part of the DOT letter.
No,
So
no,
it-
no, he offered, at that meeting we had, Kevin Rooney.
Oh,
thank
highway
you.
department, I haven't heard from him about that, but we can reach out and ask.
Okay, and so do you want to do that then, Dave, or you want me?
It's another topic to talk to him about.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dave, can I take just a second here?
Yep.
I just want to thank Lori and Jen and the people that are involved in getting things moving around here. My big complaint all along in the most recent history or past history, however you want to say it, was that we need to finish stuff before we start stuff. And the part, I mean, obviously we're stepping in the right direction. I understand that it's got to go a lot further, but if we get one at a time out of here, it just makes things easier. There's not so much conflict or that kind of thing. And I just want to thank everybody that's been involved. Tracy, David, the whole 9 yards, everybody that's on the committees and that. It just, many hands makes light work.
This
That's
could
the only
not,
thing I can say.
the park and 141 could not have happened without all the people that put forth. There's a lot of talent in this village,
But it's getting
and
done.
it came.
It's getting done. That's
Getting done.
what I'm doing.
Thank you.
All right, in terms of the code enforcement report, there were a total of 6 permits issued, generated $775 in fees. He worked with the assessor on an inventory of non-permittable work that occurs and completed the 1203 annual state report that he has to file all the time, every year. Pretty comprehensive report.
Is this report in here? I didn't see it. Heavens.
It was the very,
It was.
So, yeah, all over.
Of your. Oh,
yeah.
okay, it must be. in my-
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna open public comment. I'll do on Zoom first this time, since we shake it up a little. If you're on Zoom and would like to public comment, just please unmute yourself.
I have a comment when it's my turn.
Who is that?
Casey,
I just had a question, only because it's hard to hear on Zoom. Is it possible for us to restate and or spell the name of who the Willow Park design was awarded to, please?
yes,
Barton,
Where's the speaker closest to? That's what I think you're running, so.
Barton, B as in boy, Arton, and LaJudas, Logui, D as in dog, ICE.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jean?
Yep, I want to thank Lori and Burbridge and everyone who worked with her to try to resolve the trash issues. It bothers a lot of other people on the street, and I know that somebody told me that they were paying their water bill and they asked about it, and other neighbors asked about it. I have kind of become the point person, I guess, in a way, but it bothers a lot of other people besides me, and it bothers the renters when they're on the street. And so it is a bigger problem than I think you think it is, Dave. That's one thing. And then the second thing I wanted to say is I know that we're going to be working on the parking issue. And I think it's really important that when you get to Memorial Day and especially the 4th of July, that some parking is enforced. And as that comes up for the summer, in the summers where there's been occasion for the sheriff or somebody to come down and give a ticket on the numbered streets, especially near the beach, the word gets out and the problem takes care of itself, or 50% of the problem takes care of itself. And that was also something that was discussed in the Beach Advisory Committee meetings as we were trying to resolve things about the beach and the parking and so on and so forth. So that is not just something that's coming, for example, just from me about parking. I know other people are upset about parking. And there was something in the Beach Advisory Committee management plan about parking because it's an issue in the village. And I hope you continue to work towards resolutions. And Bill, I echo your comments that a lot of issues come up and they get tabled and tabled and tabled, and that your willingness and recognition to bring an issue to a resolution is very much appreciated.
Thank you, Jean. Dave Williamson, it looks like you've unmuted.
Thank you. Good evening, all. And I would like to address the board and those listening tonight. As you know, my name is Dave Williamson and I reside at 8660 Greg Street. And my wife and I have been spending summers here since 1975, and I've spent summers here since 1958. So you can do the math, that's 48 years. Going backwards in a little history, I have strongly supported installation of sewers, and we came here in 75 and was one of the key things that was performed. And ironically, Villager Construction, our home was the first one to be tied into the sewers back in 75. This evening, I'm wanting to address the board specifically about a meeting that was held back on December 24th of 2022. Unfortunately, this, in my opinion, was a special board meeting that was hastily called. And as a homeowner, we were home prior to the holidays, and it was absurd to call this meeting only with hours' notice. We have been plowing this street for a number of years, and in fact, that particular afternoon, the driveway and the drive had been plowed, and realizing that there was obstruction, that most passenger cars were unable to pass through that area. The work that Villager performed and the work that's being performed by the Village of Sodas Point has been done and continues to be done on private property. And I want to let the community know that the village attorney cautioned the village board in his initial meeting in January 19th of 2023 of the potential liability. In my opinion, this is a lawsuit potentially waiting to commence by disgruntled owners, and I'll explain in a moment. The village has been and in no way performing and should not be performing the work on a private road. The only agreement that I am aware of is the village has an obligation to plow the street to allow the fire department to reach hydrants. The water is no way is affecting the delivery of fuel services and other deliveries to the particular residents that reside on this private road. The street has been plowed with the existing conditions, and we have no right to be performing work without at least a temporary easement and I would like to hear comment from the village attorney later during the normal session. In addition, the village needs drainage easements and surveys to be doing any further work in this area. All work should cease without proper legal documents. A lawsuit has already been threatened by one of the affected property owners. I have on 3 occasions reached out to the village attorney to discuss this liability of our village. It is the board's responsibility to stop further work. In doing research in preparation for tonight's meeting, I would like to share the South Shore has been in discussions with the board, and we all need to be aware of this. We talk about continuation of issues, but going back to September 16th, November 18th, and December 16th of 21, all of these board meetings had discussions reflective of this situation. Fast forward to 2022, meetings were held January 20th, February 17th and 18th, March 17th, April 21st, May 19th, June 16th, October 20th of 22, and finally January 19th of 2023. All of this can be found on the Sodas Point Info Board minutes. A study has been published for the village by Costage Engineering. I feel it is more than generous of our mayor, Dave McDowell, to offer using taxpayers' dollars to pay for this study delivered in February 22nd of 2023. This was no means of assisting our taxpayers in the affected area. On the opposite side, I would consider to be an absurdity at any time into the future to consider allowing this area to become a dedicated street. In communities where I resided and built housing tracts with our family, it has been the responsibility of the developer to provide a dedicated street. This includes roadway design, construction of the road, water line installation before this could become an approved subdivision. There has been no surveys for the immediate area considered for village dedication. The street should be 26 feet to meet highway standards. There is no turnaround to accommodate emergency vehicles. If this were to be approved for a dedicated road, are all the residents willing to sign off making this a public highway? My observation has been there is a conflict of interest, specifically by Jennifer Evans. This is due to the relationship of her home and that of the affected neighbors. We all want to do the right thing, but the board needs to remember they are dealing with taxpayers' money. If the street were to be approved by this current board, are they prepared to answer questions from all other village residents? In addition, South Shore homeowners could petition the village, once dedicated, to request curbs, drainage for all of this section of the dead end. In addition, their next request could be sidewalks, street lighting. If all of the South Shore residents were to propose a special taxing district to the village to address the current issue regarding drainage, I would support this concept in requesting a special taxing unit to allow them to improve the streets, sidewalks, curbs, and drainage for all. I'm sure you are all asking yourselves, why is David Williamson so concerned about this issue? So here's the answer. We are very familiar with the Steiger House restaurant in our town. The problem is at Christmas time, when dining at Jim Steiger's restaurant, a generational business, he shared with Susan and myself the need to sell his home in our village. His words were, he could no longer afford to pay the taxes. When we realize that many individuals residing in our village may also be confronted with the same situation, I want you all to know and confirm that I did reconfirm this morning in speaking with Jim. So please ask him what his position is regarding our future of our village. And to satisfy all special groups of individuals, all of the homeowners who own property in the affected area knew when they bought their property, this was not a dedicated street. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on Zoom? Anybody in the room?
I have a question about the disposition. Jennifer and Lori are well aware of it, and so are you and Kevin, about Second Street and the hoarder home next to me. Where does it stand right now? It's an absolute health hazard. We haven't been able to put the house up for sale. We have been told by Nagels because we can't get the money we should get for our home. It's a health hazard. There's rats, there's mice, there's skunks, there's possums, there's raccoons in that backyard. You've asked me before to film them, to take pictures, but you see them at night. You can't.
Can you
And
respond?
you've all seen my property, you've all seen it. You've seen it from up on the deck. You've seen, even if I put up a fence, the view up from the deck where a potential buyer, they're not gonna, it's worse than it was. Where does it?
We all know that and understand that, and I just don't know where it is. in the
But
court
yet
system.
there's another year, another summer where I'm embarrassed to have people over. I don't want my grandchildren in the backyard. It's an absolute health hazard.
Is that?
He has bees nests, hornets nest, dog feces, all kinds. It's worse than it was before. And
It-
we've been dealing with this since we've lived down here almost 20 years now. And it's a good thing my husband's not here tonight.
Matt, you have an update?
Yeah, that's Mr., are you referring to Mr. Allen?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, he has court on the 26th next Friday.
he's still been in court for years.
Right, but I believe that the intent is to give him a daily fine until it's cleaned up. A daily fine until it's cleaned up is what we're requesting.
He's not gonna pay it, he doesn't care, and it's not gonna get the job done. It's not gonna get the yard cleaned up. They've done this before. And this is the third mayor that my husband and I have seen.
Okay.
And it's the second code enforcement person. And they've been doing court for years. And fines, he's not gonna pay them.
Well, that's the intention is to ask for daily fines. If he doesn't pay them, then it's up to the court on how to address that.
And Bill's been in the house for calls. He knows it's a hazard to fire and emergency people. So what have you done?
Is there,
Did you have
Don't tell
anything?
Well, I
me to
mean-
back the property.
What?
Don't tell me to, I don't want anybody to tell me about the property.
So Matt, you just described what is happening next. as
Yeah,
far
the
as daily
request is daily fines. I believe it's $250 a day.
And then after that, what happens?
Well, if he doesn't pay the fines, then it would be up to the court to enforce the fines that they imposed upon him.
And so another summer of having a health hazard next door. You know, over the years, I've called the Department, Wayne County Department of Health, Animal Control. I have called all kinds of agencies. They
So have
bounce
we.
it back to you and to Kevin.
and we've called them as well. And everybody says, go to court, so that's what we continue to do.
And all I would have to do, my daughter-in-law has a landscaping business. My sons have offered with their trucks to clean up. My husband has offered to clean up. You all know this.
I feel compelled to speak up for a second and support Marilyn. I want the board, the village board, and I have written to the Sodas Town judge. Ed Allen did a lot of sand work for me 20 years ago when my mom died and all sorts of stuff. I have offered to pay for the dumpster to clean up the yard. I have offered to pay for a dumpster and he doesn't do anything. And you can fine him to no end. He wants to have the money to pay. It's got to go on his taxes and you've got to seize the property.
Nothing more we can do. We are doing what we are allowed by law to do.
But if there's health hazards there, I mean, right, just think of the rabies.
That's why we've called the Department of Health more than once. So we can call them again, but
You know.
you know what happens.
You could still see it. And the health hazards are still, the burden are still there.
Well, I went down by there the other day and it looked like you got another boat in there. I'm not sure how.
Oh, he'll just.
And there's more stuff that has gone on to this thing. I mean, it has definitely changed. I've been checking it weekly. But I know that right now we have to go through the court hearing. And I know it's not the answer you want to hear. But we have to do that in order to do anything from there out. Am I correct on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, we're limited in what we can do by the code book, and that's the most calls for is daily fines, but the court imposes daily fines and you pay them, then we can just request first punishment.
And
If you're available next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I would call you to testify if you want to explain to the judge what you've witnessed.
Wednesday at 5.
Yep, Town of Sodas.
I'll
James?
speak out in support of Mrs. Burney. I also live directly across the street from there. There's another whole layer of what some of us think is elder abuse happening. I believe he has some retirement. He's a
We are well aware and we have reported it to the county. We're not gonna solve this problem here tonight. This is in the
there's
court,
an elder abuse layer to the whole
understood.
thing. His friend, I'm referring to his friends.
Yep.
Who some of us think are abusing financially.
Okay. And you can report that to the county. Any other public comments in the room?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Chuck.
Just want to thank you, Sharon Lilla, and Brandon and everybody at the fire department, the gazebos. Kind of want to put a couple things to rest. We have been involved since late 2020 in this, and it's been a process. And I want to thank everybody. We butted heads, but for the future of the ball field, I think this was definitely a right direction. And again, appreciate everybody's help on that. I think it's going to look gorgeous. And I was actually out of town when they were going up, and for Brandon to stop that and have them cut down the height was key on his part, and I applaud him and I thank him for that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Neighborhood Association.
Go ahead.
I'm Mary Lou Shaneman. My husband and I live at 7529 John Street. I'm a member of the Neighborhood Association, Summers Point. And this is Kathy.
Kathy Madison, 8405 Bay Street, Summers Point. I'm president of the Neighborhood Association.
And we're just here to update you, tell you some of the things that we have planned for the summer. We have the beach cleanup, which is April 22nd, Saturday. And do you want me to go through the specifics? I did hand all this in. We just kind of wanted to update.
I would just, in general, talk about all the things you're doing.
Come Fly a Kite, which is Sunday, May 28th, downtown Park. The Sail Around the Point. We also have the Kitty Parade on July 3rd. And we're planning Music Tuesdays at the gazebo, 2 Tuesdays in July and 2 Tuesdays in August. And during the winter, we came up with 3 little free libraries. They are being built right now. And they, one from a private donor, one with the Friends of the Library, and one through Mass. And I've already been in contact with the mayor for those. And when we get those all together, we'll be in touch again to get them put up hopefully for the beginning of our season here.
Awesome.
Is there any questions?
Thank you very much.
And I think Kathy had a.
And I'm going to steal just a little bit of thunder from something that's coming up. I know you're going to be talking about SOS and the summer, what's it called?
Yes, Summerfest.
Summerfest,
Calendar.
yes. So the calendar. So, you know, we've worked with SOS on this, and I want to say, I think this is a great opportunity to communicate, spread the communication of what's going on, to work together on projects. The Neighborhood Association, we don't have anybody that's really good on social media, and I think this is a great opportunity that they're going to promote some of our things for us, and it'll be a bigger audience. There'll be a calendar that everybody can go to, one source, and I just think that's really a great thing. You know, the whole partnership thing and how that works, and it's not just for something like this, but it's also for bigger projects such as grants and things like that. Back in 2017, we worked with the Village Neighborhood Association, worked with the village and supported them on getting the alternative transportation grant, which was a planning and design grant that the village would have had to pay for if they hadn't have gotten this grant. And I think by us representing the community, we were able to help them. And I think this really contributed to the fact that our community got that grant. So we have to work together on these things. I mean, truly, you know, the vitality of the water is the vitality of our community, it's the vitality of our businesses. And we gotta work together on this. We're not separate entities. So I'm really thrilled that SOS has taken the lead on this, and I think it's great. So that's all I have to say.
Oh, you know what? We also have our annual meeting in November. We're always looking for new members, so look at that.
And we're looking for volunteers for all our
Everything,
projects. You can
yes.
come out this Saturday even and help pick up the beach. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Any other public comment? Anywhere? All right. Let's see.
Mark Kostich, 8634 Greg Street, speaking as a resident. I too want to comment on the Sill Road. I kind of question how we're getting to the place of dedication of a road. In that we seem to have started down this road with a problem of drainage that is taking place over there, and it's morphed into taking a private road in dedication. And seems to me that's kind of taking a problem and multiplying and magnifying it quite a bit. You know, in normal cases that I've seen, and I've been involved in a lot of dedication of roads, typically a petition is put forth by a developer or by residents to dedicate a road. Plans or reports are prepared to show how that road complies with the town's or village's ordinance. And then the board looks at it and decides whether or not they will entertain that, and they look at the results and they look at the conditions, and then they move forward and maybe vote to take that road in dedication, many times with improvements needed to make it up to the village or town standards. In this case, we seem to be kind of just moving forward without a lot of the things. I did see the map that was prepared, and that answers some of my questions, because, you know, as far as how wide is this proposed right of way, a turnaround, width of the pavement, it doesn't seem to show much with regards to the road, the condition of the road, any improvements to the road. It really seems to be an existing survey showing a proposed right of way. You've got about 700 feet of road that's about 14 feet and as low as 14 feet and in some places wider. Condition is, you know, with some alligatoring. So you've got already some significant drainage issues with some very concerning, I think, problems with respect to easement and right to fix those problems and how you're going to fix them. I understand that you're later looking at what I kind of consider a Band-Aid fix later on of that problem, or a start to that fix, but the solution is really quite a bit larger and will require easement from downstream people who have blocked the drainage. And that's really the issue at hand here that really needs to be dealt with. So taking this in dedication seems to be the cart before the horse. And, you know, an example of a process that the village went through is the fairways, the development next to the golf course. It's probably upwards of 30 years ago, Larry Pino brought that project before the village. He installed the whole road. He paid for an engineer to design it. He installed it. And the people that moved in there each had to pay their portion of the road. Their home cost was associated with installation of the road. And the road was built to your standards and you took it in dedication. That's a typical approach. The road here is, again, 14 feet wide, of marginal construction, it's going to be a maintenance issue in the future. You're going to pay money to repair and overlay and maintain it. So, you know, I'm just very concerned that as a resident, it is going to become an issue that will continue long after this drainage issue hopefully gets resolved, because it is certainly a big issue. Another case where I was involved upwards of 30 years ago, the town of Webster had a very similar circumstance. I'm sure some of the older people in the audience remember the Glen Eden. And that had a road that was private down to a restaurant and had 3 residents. And they, the town was politically pushed to take it dedication. And the end result was the town has for 30 years been working on a drainage problem that's not resolved. And it cost them a lot of money, and they wish they never went into that deal. So please, I guess I ask, consider where you're going. Maybe solve the drainage issue first, and then work on dedication. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with public comment, either on Zoom or in the room? All right, we will close public comment. Thank you all very much. We'll move to old business. And in old business, we last meeting wanted to re-advertise for a communication specialist, which we did. We did receive 1 application from Carly Straubing, so I'm looking for approval to hire her based on the job description that you all have in the packet. Few days she did the job. She certainly did an excellent job, and she's very enthusiastic to get started again.
I would like to make the motion to approve Carly Straubing for the communication specialist position.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everybody for putting it together the way it was supposed to go. And it was very well done.
Excellent.
All right, we'll move into new business. And the first bit of new business is Christy Fowler from Save Our Sodas. Talk about what we've been up to for the time.
Hi there, how is everybody? We as an SOS board have kind of been working on all kinds of things from the water levels to algae in the bay and the quality of the shoreline resistance, and SOS has been looking for another leg to where we can help the community. And we've been talking to business owners and residents to see where that need might fall. And for instance, the neighborhood organization at Sodas Point, and they suggested bringing together all the events that Sodas Point already has and what Sodas Point does, because there's anybody out there that does that. So we have kind of created Summerfest and a calendar that we put together. It's not finalized, but if you want to take a look at them, that's going to go up, and the different businesses in the area. To see what it was that the SOS was doing, help cause. So we are really just promoting all the events that have already existed in Sodas Bay and around the bay, bringing the east side and the west side together. There's some events that we're going to do on the east side too. So it's this whole Sodas Bay, community instead of just Sodas Point.
What kind of things are you gonna do on the other side to make it fair?
What we're going to do, we're hosting a boat parade that's going to come in. It encompasses the whole bay in the area. Not only the businesses, we're waiting to see what businesses step up and open this year to be able to bring them in. But I know the town of Huron is on board. We've met with the town supervisor, Phil Agnew over there, and he's in full support of it. there's, we can just see the businesses.
How does your insurance match up to the village to make sure that the insurance, when things like this happen, you usually are co-insured? I know we have stuff with NASP like that and the financial part of it.
We aren't insured, we're just supporting it. We are building the webpage, we are putting the calendar of events into place, and we're promoting it.
So there's no insurance.
Each organization
They have everybody has their own.
has their own.
They do
and
sign up
the
for
village has
events.
ours.
They, it would fall under the village or the organization that's hosting the event. All we're doing is promoting the event.
Festival insurance is a really big deal. Having worked on bicentennial for Williamson and things like that, we had to have various insurances. And so you would have to name it for different things and that sort of thing. And that's my biggest concern about it going there, that and fundraising for the events.
Everybody's doing it on their own. So we've got a cornhole tournament that's coming here. They're doing all the registration, they're getting participants, they're reserving the ball field. They do it all on their own. We are just a place where we're putting that event and a link to their page where everybody can sign up and manage it.
And so are you, to pay for this, are you going to our area businesses and that sort of thing?
Again, SOS, the only funding the SOS has is the printing of the materials that are being posted. And that's something that's going through SOS and our fundraising.
So it'll come out of that, because my concern is, and I was active in SOS and I think you guys have done a brilliant job. I mean, up until now, things are really cooking. When I started into it back in the late 2000s, it was morphing then, and I'm saying it's morphing now. Because this is not in the mission statement that you folks have and the information you have. And I'm just asking, how does this fit in with what the current purpose of SOS is?
Well, SOS has always focused on helping the Bay and promoting the Bay, and this is just another tool to be able to do that, to bring people into the area. The more people that come in and spend money, it's great for the businesses. You have to have money and more people involved to build the real resiliency up to be able to be here. and
Okay,
stay
so
here.
there'll be information booths and things like that.
on the pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, to promote it, yeah.
What's our insurance to do to take care of something like this? I mean,
It's the same that it always has been. I mean, the Willow Park and we have insurance on our part, all of our facilities, and everybody has to sign out or, sign a form for the event. And it would be this normal process. Because each individual, it's all individual.
Agencies or
Yeah.
groups or whatever.
So-
It's not- Like she said, they're not hosting all of them.
The
It's
village has
everything is on
big
there.
liability insurance that covers all of our properties.
okay, so then we have to name
Like the-
SOS. Is that why we have to approve this?
We're not asking for approval, it's simply information, so everybody's aware of what's going on.
Okay,
I thought you would feel weird if these
yeah, you absolutely would.
started going out and you hadn't learned about it yet, so.
Thank you. But yeah, so we did this last year as a board on a couple of items. Did we decide that we aren't gonna do any more of that, or
And
what did we call it, splash last year? Are we doing something like that this year, or?
I haven't received a proposal from you.
I think
I don't know.
this is supposed to substitute for that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you,
Any other questions? Thank you, Christie.
thank you.
Next on the new business is to pass the 2023-24 village budget. We had a public hearing on a little bit ago. Adopting a budget for the fiscal year commencing June 1, 23 through May 31, 24, making appropriations for the conduct of Village of Sodas Point business and establishing the rates of compensation of officer employees for such period presented. Whereas this board has met April 20, 2023 at 6:15 in the Village Hall at 8356 Bay Street, Oaks Point. The time and place specified in notice of public hearing on preliminary budget and heard all persons desiring to be heard therein now, therefore be it resolved that the preliminary budget as amended and revised and as herein set forth is hereby adopted, and that the several amounts stated in the column titled adopted in Schedule A1, Schedule F1, and Schedule G1, and they hereby are appropriated for the objects and purposes specified, and the salaries and wages of such budget shall be and are hereby fixed those amounts shown therein effective June 1, 2023.
I make a motion, we adopt the budget.
I'll second that. And I just have a statement. Yes, Ellis, the visitor station is included.
All in favor? All
Aye.
right, thank you very much. Now we're on to the South Shore Road. Definitely temporary Band-Aid drainage fix, but something to get the highway department out of manning a pump many days a week, depending on the weather. We have two proposals, one from Mark Peretta Excavating for $27,100. There are some notes on here. And one from Burroughs Brothers that has a base repair and then some options that some of which may need to be considered. The total of all of that, including all the options, is $25,005. None of this work can be done until we have written permission from all 4 property owners whose properties are potentially impacted. Verbally, there's been some agreement to do that, but we have no document to give them yet. And that will happen next if we approve moving forward as one of these proposals.
I'm just wondering why we didn't ask Villager for a quote on this. Did they not have the proper equipment?
Conflict of interest, yes. Huge conflict of interest.
Oh, you're right.
Steve,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think he would have bid that for that reason if we asked.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
The other part of this is too, is this is to take care of the drainage issue, correct? Not everything attached to it?
This is taking care of replacing the likely damaged portion of the
Okay.
existing pipe only. It's not adding capacity. It will not handle the 10-year storm. But it should get the highway department out of coming 7 days a week to check on the status of the pond.
truly is fun. Just so everybody's clear, we were instructed as a board that we needed to do the dedication process prior to doing these repairs. Am I not correct?
Well, I had suggested, and it was proposed originally paying to have the fix to the drainage. I said that I view it as a private road, so that money should not be spent. So I had on a private road, so I had said, so it had been discussed having it dedicated as a public road before spending the money.
Which we did a lot of research, which demonstrated that in fact, that had been written by several people in this village office. And we installed the road that it was a public road
And also that it had a prescriptive easement because we've been taking care of it
for 20 plus
for
years.
20 plus years. So we didn't have to do that in order to,
Right, but it was recommended. We should.
it was recommended.
Correct.
And for all of those that have been around for years and years, I'd like to know how people that were maybe on this board would allow somebody to make a handshake and allow the road to have been closed off in the first place. That's the real crime here. We're getting a lot of crap for things that people got us into because they didn't do it in the right way in the first place. So, and in the meantime, on Christmas Eve, when people can't get to their house, they can't get their Christmas trees in there, you can't get an ambulance through.
It was an emergency.
It was an emergency. The pumps that we were told were here were not. When we went to use them, we couldn't, and I will stand by that all day long. And if we hadn't done something, I would have expected those residents to sue us for safety violations. So one way or another, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't, but I say you fix the safety issue, you bear on the basis of safety. And I am 100% sure this road was a road and a prescriptive easement and all the things that went along with it. For all the years, we did the right thing.
So the business at hand is these two proposals.
I make a motion, we go with Burroughs Brothers. Are they, first of all, is repair the apples to apples situation here,
Yeah.
what they're gonna do?
Yeah, I've spoken with Brad and he's given me his comments regarding, you know, one versus the other, where they're stronger, where they're weaker. I'm also familiar with Burroughs Brothers' work because I worked in the union. I saw some of their work firsthand. They're top notch and they, to quote somebody else's words, they're good at finesse. You know, finessing a situation, if you will.
I'll stick with my.
Local.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next order of business is really just a review of the motorized vehicle use in the village. We did ask for home rule from both Ryan Mankabo and Pat Helming. That request is part of the current session. It may or may not be tied in with the state budget. That may never happen based on what I heard in the news tonight. So we have no new things that we can do. So we fall back to New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, which says you can't operate a vehicle on the road, a motorized vehicle on the road, unless it has turn signals and headlights and whatever else is required. We know that that happens in this village and in other villages all the time. We also know that the sheriff isn't very interested in pursuing it. So we would like to do it right, but at this point in time, we can't. Matt did find out that motorized bicycles are not allowed on the sidewalk. So they're forced to go into the road, much like snowmobiles, to be honest. It's kind of the same thing. People are welcome if they feel, you know, harassed or in some danger by motorized vehicles near their house or on the road or whatever, they're welcome to call 911. It'll be a low priority response. Somebody will respond eventually, but they're not likely to do anything about it.
So we put signs out for the snowmobiles in the winter to stay off the sidewalks, right?
The snowmobile, yes.
I recommend putting it at least on the electric sign, just to remind
Yeah,
them.
right.
Sure.
Off the sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we do something like that?
Sure.
At least to do something until this gets.
Yeah, I know we don't receive, but what's our response? Let's see, a 6-year-old little boy or girl is riding a little electric scooter down the sidewalk. What's our response going to be to the citizen that responds to that?
I gotta think there's gotta be a speed attached to that someplace.
Yeah, they're usually about 4 miles per hour, but.
Well, because anything over,
Because that question's good.
But I'm not sure.
Right, well, and the response is call 911. I mean, we have no authority to do anything about that.
We've got a youngster right now that's riding, standing up with girls and
Oh, yeah.
neighbor kids and stuff, that's looking for a place. I keep waiting for him to get something to happen. I was gonna try to take the Ranger and try to follow him when he goes back up Margaretta.
You're gonna be a stalker.
About safety. Yeah, because I don't want to see something happen to him. I mean, he's not impolite, he waves.
So I think we need to put something on the sign, which is
Yeah.
just.
Can we go back to the silt shore drainage? Where,
Yeah.
how are we paying for that? No, I'm
You put it in next year's budget.
next year's budget?
Yeah.
We did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We put $30,000 in next year's budget.
So this one.
It won't happen before then. We're not gonna get written approval from everybody before this.
Correct.
June, right?
June 1.
Maybe the water will start coming down.
Yeah.
Already over the pipe right now.
What's rising as fast as. Okay,
The
then-
other thing is, for a permanent fix on that, if this doesn't work, we should be incorporating SOTUS with this, because the way that the property comes between the golf course, the new house which is actually on Soda's property, the drainage that's coming down on the side of the road, all has been drained to this pond. And they could nicely do something else. I talked briefly to Scott about it, and he's open to that. So that may be another avenue to try to get the water to go someplace else from these other things.
With some of it,
Yeah,
if we can't find a grant, we can apply with the town as well, because yes, they
Yeah.
are impacted. Then the only other alternative to pay for it is to establish a drainage district, which would encompass much of the heights, all of Sill Shore Road, and the town actually has to create that district. We can't as a
Yes.
village. And there'd be a separate tax that would pay for that drainage. That's, once the road is all dedicated and all of that, the CFA will come out in May. We'll take a look. I don't know if there's gonna be anything in there. We know how much money we need, so we can start looking at alternatives.
okay.
That money that that's from the costage engineering study and
Yes.
quotation.
What's stormwater,
Yeah,
which is 5,000.
we put it in somewhere. It's somewhere else. Wherever we hit $100,000.
Flooding or.
Yeah, yeah. All right, good.
The flooding, right?
Yeah, because that's what it is.
Make sure I'm right.
Flooding and erosion.
All right, in your packet was a parking enforcement officer job description, and I'd like approval to advertise it so we can start talking to potentially interested people. As Bill mentioned, we did have a couple of former sheriff officers who were sheriff deputies who expressed an interest, whether they go here or not. We got it done. See, this is budgeted in our budget at $20 an hour for, I forget how many hours a week. And essentially Memorial Day to Labor Day.
In this parking, and we've got people that abuse parking too. Are we gonna have some signs that are clearly defined as to how long, the length of time? Like if you go over at the tail end, some of the neighbors have complained to me that live down on Wickham Boulevard. People will park their car in there and it stays there forever. And I don't know what the agreement is.
We will have to, as a board, revisit our parking ordinance. And the study that we received last year sometime, I don't remember when, has the recommendations in it.
Okay,
I have started to update it, but I'm nowhere near done yet. But
okay,
that will come. That will help if this person be far more effective.
okay.
I'll make the motion that we run the ad and start the process.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, we don't need a
Do we
motion?
need a motion?
No,
Oh, okay. I retract it.
I'm I mean,
I do.
okay, so replacing, yeah.
yes.
It'll be
We'll
cheap.
place the ad and we'll go from there. The last order of new business is surplusing our current ambulance, which we need to do so that we can get an appraisal, and do have two offers from different agencies to buy it. We will consider in the future sometime once we know whether they're good or not, and we actually have our new ambulance.
I make a motion. Does that take a motion?
Yeah,
Surplus.
it's-
You should
Okay.
make-
And
Yeah, and you should make it. I'll make the motion.
I withdraw.
That we. That we, make the. pass it.
We're just like. vote for the
I
ad.
will second that motion for the resolution to surplus the ambulance.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're gonna decide what we're doing. We're surplusing it or so
You have two offers, you have
We'll surplus it. What I would like to suggest that we do is have Auctions International come and appraise it. And that way we'll know what they think they can get for it, and we know what the other two offers are, and then we can come forward with.
Right,
We think
if
we
the
should.
appraisal is way out of what they're offering, we can get them to come back to the table and say, maybe this is a fair
We know that one of the offers comes with, they can increase their offer. We don't know by how much, but we know they can increase it.
And it's another agency, I mean, another.
Right, you know, it's like a Winston.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about it.
I mean,
Second. Any other new business before we pay the bill?
What is this, just an informational kind of thing that was in the packet?
Who put that in there?
I don't have, don't remember.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, it came in the mail, didn't it?
No, this was in my box.
Well, it may have
Yeah, I
been
got
there
it.
for a while, depending on.
It is, but-
It was just a letter about the document
I
and stuff.
do have a
Yeah.
question back
Oh.
on the garbage.
Okay.
New York State has a law that already is in existence. And I don't know why we can't enforce that to make trash go away.
We have approached the sheriff about that, we approached the Wayne County Department of Health about that. I don't know, we know we're gonna have a problem again, and we're just gonna have to be more aggressive this summer.
What is aggressive then?
I think the garbage from New York State actually has fines associated.
Yeah.
Without us even writing it.
It's real, pretty clear.
Question that, in respect of it, we use the DEC to try and enforce that at all, with the extra critters around.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
And when we brought up extra critters to the other agencies, they want pictures, and we don't have them. That's why on Third Street, everybody had their night vision cameras,
Yeah.
and we have it.
Oh, they don't need them anymore. Maybe they can share them with the people on Teams.
Well, I'm just thinking the DEC might be easy to have, when they got a lot of rollouts.
They have their own enforcement.
And they have their own thinking.
The DEC does?
Are you kidding?
Are they gonna set up for a private?
Okay, let's pay our bills.
4-1 through 456, only 87,224.78. General fund 27,156.97. Water 34,101.80, and wastewater 25,966.01.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
All right, any other business?
Yes, the date. May
Oh,
8th.
yes.
I am asking if we can move the May meeting from the 18th to the 25th, 1 week later.
It will avoid us having a
It'll-
year-end meeting.
Then that way we can do board meeting and yes, all in
is
one.
that on Memorial Weekend?
It's before, it's before, yeah, before.
Thursday, right?
Oh, yeah,
Thursday
that's fine.
before, yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Everybody's okay
Yeah.
with that? 'Cause
Same
I'll-
time, or do you have to adjust the times?
I would say same time should be fine.
And one other thing, I would like to see on the agenda, next month, something about water bills and, campgrounds and, various, things that we're doing to make it even.
That's really the code.
another code. And if that's what we need, committee and people to look at that code and discuss it.
We need to do that.
So I would,
We can at least start it next week. Or
I'll
next month.
send, we'll send you that, look at that
Okay.
code, that section of the code, we just start reviewing it.
Yeah.
You know what that
And,
is?
you know.
Yep.
Lunch at Barnes.
Okay, so everyone's okay.
Yes.
Any other business? Motion to adjourn,
Move.
Second.
I know I can do that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your.
Good night, all. Good night, Brandon.
Yeah.